Ladies and gentlemen, big terror news.
Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another episode of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Is that right?
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Come on, I worked, like I Googled how to spell it. I put some effort into that one.
What's up, bruh?
As I said before we went to air, I am a tired little potato. I have been very, very busy today. Yeah.
Are you wanting the stream tonight to fail so you can leave early and go to bed?
So this conspiracy theory that you have birthed not more than 10 minutes ago that I nuked the stream last night because I wanted an early bed. I have been besmirched. It is a stain on my good character. I will not forgive and I will not forget.
Yeah. Well, there's a bit of tension here tonight because we've already had an argument before we started. Should we finish off that argument?
Yes, all Trump supporters are Nazis. That is the moot.
Let's be fair with the whānau. I just said I think people, and I'm actually probably talking about the media and some on the left talking about this Trump rally at Madison Square Garden as being Nazi-like. The Nazi-styled rally is really unhelpful messaging. I think Bill Clinton, there's 3 or 4 politicians who have had, rallies at Madison Square Garden. And yeah, you can say the rhetoric from the front was different, completely with you on that. But I think that it's not clever messaging. And there were some people who were there who, I'm not saying they were necessarily sitting on the fence, but they're like going, well, I didn't see no Nazis there. No, that's not what I saw. I just think it's a really silly, it's an unintelligent narrative to try and push because I don't think it's not going to win you anyone, but it might drive some people away. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I agree. Like throwing out the Nazi.
So I won the argument. So it's over. Okay, let's get going.
Pat, you know it's not that easy on BHM. you just know it isn't. Like for me, calling someone a Nazi is a very specific thing. Are they wearing a swastika? Do they ascribe to the teachings of Adolf Hitler? Yeah. Those sort of guys, if it looks like a Nazi, fucking is a Nazi, and they should be punched in the face immediately. Is Donald Trump a Nazi? I don't think he is. Does he have fascist tendencies? Abso-fucking-lutely. Are all his supporters pulling in that direction? Not necessarily. Are they a grab bag of some of humanity's worst traits? Yes. But I don't think it's a cohesive thing at the moment that you can say, call MAGA Nazism. I think it is its own fucking thing, but it's certainly worrying.
Here's the thing, right? And this is what we've said about sort of the racist or the whatever. Not all Trump supporters are Nazis, but any Nazis out there are voting for Trump. They're not voting for, the other candidate. But I just thought about this, and I thought about this through the week, and I thought I might tweet about it to see if I can, blow some wigs off because I love doing that with some people. The old saying, as we say in Germany, if there's a Nazi at the table and 10 other people sitting there talking to him, you've got a table with 11 Nazis. Now, just replace that word Nazi with fascist. The argument's been going around, who are the fascists? If there's a fascist at the table and 10 other people sitting there talking to him, you've got a table with 11 fascists. Could that argument be made as a way to go, not all Trump supporters are fascists, but if you're going to hang out with fascists, if you're going to hang out with people, let's be clear now, back to the Nazi thing, who use the iconography and ideology of Nazism and who speak like a fascist, what does that make you? If it doesn't make you a fascist, why are you attracted to fascistic characteristics and attributes? That would be a question.
And I look, historically, was every German a Nazi? No, they weren't. Were they happy to go with the flow as long as their lives didn't get shit up? Yes. And this is the danger when people disengage from stuff. It's like, everybody's gone crazy. Everyone's joined the MAGA cult. With the Nazi party, it was like, well, I'm going to join the Nazi party because I'll get promotions or I'll get that contract that I need or that sort of thing. They weren't all signing up to be firm supporters of the death camps.
Yeah.
They just wanted to get through their day to day. And that's the dangerous thing when it comes to something like this. Someone will gather up enough power and enough support to not let it go. And then they have that machinery to keep everybody else out of it. And I think that's one of the things when America talks about its democratic systems and how its government is set up, it was set up to stop people gaining too much power. They were very conscious about that. I think what we've seen over the last 40 years is an erosion of that's only been turbocharged. When you look at, say, when Obama was in, and they ummed and ahed about replacing someone on the Supreme Court, and the Republicans all kicked off about like it's unethical for Obama to replace someone in the last year of his term or something like that. And then as soon as their guy's in, as soon as Trump's in, all of that goes out the window, and he appoints a whole bunch of Supreme Court justices for life. Like it's mental. They want the opposition to play by the rules, and then the rules go out the window when they're in. And this is something I think America should be absolutely fucking terrified of. I think even with avoiding labels like fascist or Nazis or that sort of thing, I think it's pretty clear from all the footage, all the interviews, all the words that have been talked about the MAGA movement, is it's a fucking cult. It's a cult of personality. It does not matter. The truth doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what Trump does. He's their guy. He's going to do whatever they feel is important. Whether he will or not is a different story. It's just, I feel like he will support what I think is important. And he's the only guy. He's the best guy. It doesn't matter if you put facts in front of these people. They will not be swayed. What do you think the percentage of people that went to Madison Square Garden for a Trump rally, less than a week out from the election? Do you think a portion of them were there to have their minds changed? Or that they were true believers in a democratic state? Or people that were just there to see the fucking car crash?
Yeah, I think there was car crash, or like people going to see like in 1800s time, the carny came through, the carnival came through. There was people there to see the rodeo clowns, and they were there, and there was true believers, and there was media. So I don't think many people would have been convinced from the weekend that's gone to change their vote, but there may have been some people who have solidified their vote, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think the other part of it, and this, look, I don't have an eye on the American experience or anything like that, but as an outsider looking in, I think the world has a right to be really concerned about a potential fascist wannabe dictator gaining control of the most powerful country on the planet. I think that's kind of an excuse for maybe keeping the finger next to the Nazi button there.
Yeah. Maybe what it is, and there'll be two kinds of people. There'll be people who use the word, it's almost like, what is a woman? There'll be people who use the word Nazi to think of the dictionary definition of what that means. And there'll be people who use the word Nazi as more of a cover-all for far-right, revolting ideologies, may not be literal Nazis, but are akin to, beside, would sit at a table with them perhaps. So there's kind of multiple ways it's being used right now. And I guess I'm one of those people who tends to lean into the actual definition of what it would be. And I think we saw today Joe Biden talked about Trump supporters being garbage. It's like, that's just ammunition for the Trump supporters. He rolled it back, but it's too late. It's like the basket of deplorables, it's not, I mean, I don't mean to sound like some kind of cold-hearted political analyst, but it's not smart messaging. I don't think comparing that rally to a Nazi rally is smart messaging. All it will do is get the backup of those people, but it won't convert anyone to your side. That's kind of the position I took on it.
I think everybody wants to call the Madison Square Garden like a Nazi rally, because in the old Madison Square Garden, they literally held a Nazi rally.
Yeah.
And look, it's I've always been uncomfortable with the way that American political figures display American iconography and that sort of thing. It's always felt a little bit fucking Nuremberg rally at any point, like seeing that many draped flags and all of that sort of thing. Whatever the flag, just makes me feel a bit. Maybe that's the New Zealand sort of reaction of like, yeah, I love my country, but fucking calm down.
But hang on, but because there's a path. It goes from patriotism, the next step is nationalism, the next step is fascism. And there are a sector of America right now who are bordering on they're teetering on that line between nationalist and fascist. And that's why it feels that way, because that's where a group of them are sitting. I mean, was it Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of those two lunatics? Maybe one of them has overtly said Christian nationalism would be a good thing. We want that in our government, So, look, that annoyed the dog. Sorry, I mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene and the dog's gone.
That's Nala's limit. I'm not staying here for Christian nationalism. It's bizarre. Like, it is bizarre. Like, I want to go, hey, look, it's another American election. It's another crazy one, but this is not normal. None of this is normal. And I feel like America's kind of voting for its soul at this point. I saw a comment from a bunch of, I think it was Arab Americans going, look, we're not 100% happy with Kamala, but we are better off voting this way and having the ability to protest and the ability to argue the finer points of American foreign policy.
Yeah.
If Trump gets his way, people don't have that, or there's a risk of the National Guard being called out on them.
Yeah, interesting.
Or that sort of thing, right?
So the freedom they're voting for is the freedom to disagree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's where'd it go? I've lost it in the chat there, but there's someone they're disagreeing with. Here we go. I'm not going to put it up, but Mike Williams says, get a grip, you guys. Where is Trump a Nazi? Welcome to the conversation. That's literally what we're discussing.
Yeah. And just pause on that. I don't think either of us have actually called Trump a Nazi yet. I'm talking about how the rally shouldn't be compared to a Nazi rally. So,
so that's your point. And I'm also saying it's not helpful to call him a Nazi. I think when you're labeling someone like that, be accurate. I've been literally involved in going after literal Nazis in my past. People that'll be quite happy to wear fucking Gestapo badges and swastikas and Nazi eagles and that sort of thing. Quite happy to point at them and go, that's a Nazi. You can tell because of all the Nazi shit. I don't think Trump's a Nazi. I think he's definitely read Mein Kampf or had it read to him. I think he admires strong men and dictators of various ilks.
Yep.
He's clearly a fan of Putin.
Yep.
He's clearly a fan of Kim Jong-il. I think he's looked at these guys and gone, yes, that's what I want to be. I think he's definitely a racist. And you look at the family history, that's no surprise there. His dad was a vile racist and a supporter of the KKK. I have no problem pointing at them and saying that. Is he going to bust out a swastika with a nice T in the middle? and it'll be fucking gold this time around, because of course it would be. And I think any comparison, whatever criticisms you have, and there are many, of the American Democrats and the American democratic system and all of that sort of stuff, it is not a fair comparison. I had someone arguing about this whole stupid thing of whether Kamala worked at McDonald's at some point. There's a photoshopped image of her in a McDonald's uniform. It's not her. All of that sort of stuff. And people going, see, Kamala's a liar. And so we're going to vote for Trump. And it's just like, well, hang on. You've got a guy that has literally been indicted, that is a sexual offender, who has cut and run from every fucking business he has started, who doesn't pay people, who's a sexual harasser at best and a rapist at worst, who tried to do a literal coup, and you are going, see, that's just the same as Kamala saying she worked at McDonald's, and yet there are no records. She doesn't have a pay slip from 40 years ago. Like, just be honest. Just go, I don't want to vote for Kamala. It could be because I'm a horrible racist.
It could be because I don't like women.
It could be for a bunch of reasons. But don't sit there and say that they're the same, because they're not. Okay. They just aren't. And that's why there's a bunch of Republicans now going, I'm a lifelong Republican, but I cannot in good faith vote for Donald Trump. I'm going to hold my nose and vote for the adult in the room.
So welcome to the show. 17 minutes in as we get the one going after our little conversation.
That's a preamble.
This is going to tick quite nicely into the conversation around Candace Owens, because I want to bring into that as well the conversation between our hairless leader and Mr. Seymour about banning the Nazi insignia. So it's all will actually tie in quite nicely once we get to that, which will be the first story. But first of all, while we've been talking, we just got to get to some of these. Campbell, thank you very much for the donation to BHN Gang to fight for better treatment of workers such as my friends who are losing their jobs. Kia kaha. Rajan says, guess who got tired of the Creator concert tickets? I ain't supposed to go, nice. Guess who's got two thumbs and got this guy. Luchify says, ignorance is not the absence of knowledge or understanding. It's the refusal to acquire those things. Trump supporters are simply determined to know and understand. I guess it's determined not to know and understand. Maybe. Mark says, for a great history of how American politics got to where they are, listen to the podcast Master Plan by David Sirota of The Lever. Luchify saying, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see the second one. To not know or understand. Gotcha. With you. JC and the Pigeon Cats, thank you for the $20. Very generous for the super chat. Facts don't work because they have been convinced everything is just opinion. Stating facts, alternative facts. Kellyanne Conway herself. Stating facts just gets the, well, that's just your opinion response. Had a few conversations go that way recently. Very depressing direction for society. Also, Detective Rogers, $20 super chat. Thank you very much. Very generous. I think many people overlook that fascism and nationalism partly developed hand in hand. Many countries pre-World War II were still monarchies and did not associate their identity with their nation in the same way we do today. Frosty says, have you seen the latest ERB, Epic Rap Battles of History? I have not. And Kiwi Bird says, I think you mean Candace Owens. I see what you did there. Indeed. There's another one starting there. Do you want to put that as well? Is that what you've started for, Ben? The only problem with the analysis is you're assuming Trump voters actually pay attention to what he says and does. Many of them, it's just vibes or fitting in with their conservative community. Yeah, probably.
Doesn't that sound familiar? Yeah. We were talking about that with our own election. And look, I think everybody's exposed to that. Left or right. Sometimes it's just like, I'll never vote for the right. I'll never vote for the left. It doesn't matter. It's fiddling around the edges after that.
It's always fun. But yeah, I've done this a few elections where you just strip all the colours off the policies and just put the policies in front of people. And often the party they come back to is completely not the party they thought that they would support. Speaking of support, 12,000 today. YouTubers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we cracked over the 12,000 today. So, yeah, we had a good couple of clips in the last few months that have jumped up our numbers. Another way, speaking of support, if you're interested in being a part of what we do, we have a Patreon, Big Hairy News, patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Thank you very much for the people who are a part of what we do. We genuinely thank you and need you. It oils our wheels, our cogs, so to speak. Are we allowed to talk about cogs on the interwebs?
Not live on air.
That's
our own secret.
And if you want to be a part of this, there's lots of ways you can support us. One of them you're doing right now by being here, or on demand being here. The other way is tell people about us and share our clips around, and there's that as well. There's a few more ideas coming out the next wee while. Chewy's just done. I was sending to the chat with the podcast awards are on at the moment as well. In the description of this video, he says confidently, but I should check. Yes, in the description of this video, if you're on YouTube especially, is the link to the New Zealand Podcast Awards, and also the link to where you can listen to this podcast as an audio podcast, because you have to include that as a part of your entry. If you want to do that, that'd be great. You going to say something, Joe?
Yeah, do it. It's mandatory. If you are in range of my voice, I command you to. Okay, guys. Nominate us.
Let's have a look at the story around Candace Owens, and this does have a New Zealand component to it, because we're going to have a look at what happened today with the Young Labour Party. Young Labour President Ethan Ryle disagreed with a statement from the Free Speech Union and called on the coalition government to deny Candace Owens entry into New Zealand. Her views are not merely just controversial, but they're dangerous. So we do have an obligation by protecting our communities from that kind of rhetoric that empowers divisive movements. So it is our view that allowing her a platform would fail to uphold core values. Like we saw from the visit of Posey Parker at the end of last year, it does increase tensions in our communities, and that particularly offers a wider platform for those that have similar views. He said if the government chose not to ban Owens from New Zealand, the government should ensure higher security protocols in place at Owens's events to ensure that when those people do choose to counter-protest her, they are also not met with violence. We struggle a bit. We're very honest here on this show. If you're just new to us, we struggle a bit with that counter protesters aren't the recipients of violence, because it's pretty clear that at the Posey Parker situation, there was revolting rhetoric, but there were one or two of the violent acts seems to come from the counter protesters, and we do and still would call out, for example, the elderly woman who was punched in the face, that sort of thing. So point taken, there should be no violence from either sides, but you can't really draw Posey Parker into it and then talk about Posey Parker's side, committing violence for that example. Perhaps if you were at the Melbourne rally with Posey Parker, now she denounced the Nazis, Chewy again, that were there, but they were there to support her message, and they were violent. So, so point taken overall, just I don't know if the Posey Parker or Albert Parker is the best one to use as an example. So why is this conversation going around Candace Owens? And it's because she has been banned from Oz-stricken failure.
You're trending Australia. You're banned from Australia. Your visa's being banned. Do you want to comment? I mean, literally, it was unbelievable.
Before I play this, Chewy, if you were to kind of nutshell your understanding as to why she was banned, like what we've heard in the media, because she says something here that sounds a bit different. Why would you think that she's banned?
Look, I'm not going to try and quote it because I don't have it to hand, but no. My understanding was that they banned her because of there would be essentially a negative effect on social cohesion.
Yeah, and they used examples like anti-Semitism was one of the words they used. Now, I want you, this is not standing up for Candace Owens, obviously, but have a listen to what she says she was banned for, and it might surprise you from her perspective what she thinks she was banned for, Chewy, because what she's going to say she was banned for is sort of something from our side. Have a listen.
What you are seeing really take shape is that people don't want me to get in front of an audience, and the audience understands. That
might be true. Fair enough.
And what the reason is. We all know what actually happened in Australia. What happened in Australia is really kind of has been in the story of this year, which is that I am not comfortable with the amount of death that is taking place in Palestine.
So she thinks that she's been banned
Right.
because she's pro-Palestinian. Now, but Chewy, this is where this thing becomes insidious. Many of us who have been pro-peace in the Middle East, pro-innocent victims in Palestine, have been labelled anti-Semitic, right? That has happened to most people who have said that. Now, what she's doing is she's saying, because I'm pro-Palestinian, they're calling me anti-Semitic. Now, there's a few other things that people could probably point to about anti-Semitism, but she's almost using the position of those on the left that get called something for standing up for the civilians in Gaza. I just thought it was interesting when I heard it. This is a short, so there's only 30 seconds. We'll get to the end of it.
I've made my bed. I've chosen to lie in it. Okay, Candace, you're going to lose your job. Okay, check. I accept that. Oh, we'll take away your YouTube channel. They did that. You know, the Zionist group or whatever it was called on X said, let's lead the charge and mass report and get her demonetized on YouTube. I said, okay, I accept that because once again, I'm not a person who can be bought for money. I said what I said, and I said it 10 toes down. I am not comfortable with the amount of death that is in Gaza.
So, people in the chat, she has a point. Yeah, we know she's got a fucking point. We've been saying this for over a year about the death in Gaza. But is she cosplaying that now with an underlying vibe of... So is she basically pro-Palestine because she wants nothing but bad things to happen to Israel? You know, so is that a position of the anti-Semitic? Is they want Hamas, and we don't want Hamas, but they want Hamas to win, or they want the Palestinian cause to be taken over by them so they can make it look like they're mainstreamed.
Yeah. It's her hatred for Jews ultimately is driving her position. It is consistent throughout her statements. It is overriding everything, and she sees an opportunity to use Gaza to point at the Jewish people and go, see, they're all monsters. Now, even me, as fervent as I am about what an absolute goddamn stain on the planet Israel's actions towards Gaza are, I do not ascribe that to the entire Jewish faith.
Of course.
Of Jewish people. I ascribe it completely to the leadership of Israel and the fact that it's Zionism.
Okay, hang on, can we just make this clear? I don't think we ascribe it to any part of the Jewish faith. Like you said, every part of it's like to no part of the Jewish faith. This is from Israelis, the Israeli government, and the Israeli Defense Force. There's actually no part of
religious
the Jewish religion.
Exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah, no part of it. And the word I wrote down, which I was trying to find about with Candace Owens, she's co-opting the cause for peace in the Middle East, and she's co-opting the cause of, you know, how dare they be? It's like 50,000 civilians now. But she's co-opting it for nefarious reasons. That's what it feels like. And just so you're clear, the Australian Immigration Minister, Tony Burke, said the country's national interest would be best served with Owens somewhere else, as she could, quote, incite discord in almost every direction. That was from the Australian government. Go, Joey.
Yeah, and they also list from downplaying the impact of the Holocaust with comments about Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengele to claims that Muslims started slavery. Candace Owens has the capacity to incite discord in almost every direction.
Yeah.
So that's why they denied it. And that's fair enough. And I'm sitting here going, where the fuck is our immigration minister? Where's he at? This should have been a lockstep decision with Australia. Our two countries should have been talking about this, as my point of view. She's a horrible, hateful person. I don't know who is bringing her here. Like, what possible... Is it the Free Speech Union? I don't know. But there is zero good coming from her being here.
It's interesting, because there is no such thing as absolute free speech. There are tethers to free speech, even if it's the most clear one, which is if it's inciting violence. That's a tether to free speech. You got that? So there's no such thing as absolute free speech. People always use the example of shouting fire in a theatre, threatening to kill a world leader. There are tethers to it, right? And understanding that there's tethers to it, what the argument about is from people like the Free Speech Union and others is where do you put that tether, right? Where do you put it? Do you put it at has to lead to an exact act of violence, or could it incite secondhand an act of violence? Where do you put it? I'm someone who leans towards more speech rather than less. I'm not someone who likes to suppress speech, but I think every single example, every single chance you get a chance to investigate, will this be a net positive or a net negative? Could this lead to a second stage level of disharmony or violence? That's when you need to look at it as a one-off. And I think, Chewy, you're right. I think New Zealand and Australia should get together on these sorts of things. And you just said lockstep, should actually be able to figure these things out together, because we are often tagged on to these kinds of tours, whether it's a band or whether it's a speaker, because it takes a lot to get to Australia.
Economical.
It takes basically getting to Australia is hard. Getting to New Zealand is easier than getting to Perth. So it makes sense.
I think that one of the things that happens, and I'm glad you brought up music, because this is the same sort of thing. When these guys get cancelled and can't come into Australia, you often see the New Zealand leg or appearance cancelled for mysterious reasons. Hopefully that'll be the thing. That she doesn't see the value in coming here.
This does lead on, because some people will talk about suppression of speech, free speech. What is free speech? It does actually relate very closely to other things going on in New Zealand at the moment. So Christopher Luxon, our hairless leader, came out, I think today or yesterday, saying that he would consider banning, I think the salute, the Sig Heil salute, and perhaps even Nazi memorabilia. And he's got a bit of a fight on his hands from someone who, love him or hate him, at least he's fucking consistent for most things other than gang patches. And that's David Seymour, who was like, no, we shouldn't ban that.
No mai, haere mai. Welcome to 3 News. ACT Party leader David Seymour says there's no need for a ban on swastikas because the symbols most New Zealanders are really intimidated by are gang patches. That's despite the Prime Minister telling 3 News yesterday he was open to...
Because you probably weren't aware, Chewy, the mongrel mob have caused far, far more harm over the last 100 years than any kind of Nazi. What have the Nazis really done compared to the mongrel mob? The mongrel mob, they're the real danger. The real danger indeed.
Ban on Nazi symbols and salutes. Here's senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch.
The mongrel mob has many a cry, including a phrase adopted and adapted from Nazi Germany. Gang members are facing down the gang patch ban, which comes into force in 3 weeks.
That's been more around intimidation.
But David Seymour argues there's no such intimidation when it comes to Nazi slogans and symbols.
Most people would say that anyone with any vague knowledge of history is just a complete idiot.
So what he's saying is the mongrel mob can take their mongrel mob patch off and put on a swastika and it won't be intimidating at all. That's literally what he's saying. Unstitch the mongrel mob patch, put on a swastika, walk around the streets of whatever town or city they live in, shouting Sig Heil at people, and that won't be intimidating at all. This is the actual argument that this man is making.
It's one of those symbols, and so I think there's a difference there. Whereas people are genuinely intimidated by seeing certain gang patches and symbols.
Swastikas and the term Sig Heil have been used by the mongrel mob for decades, though gang leaders had said the use of the term would be dumped following the March 15 terror attacks.
Oh my gosh, not like a gang being community orientated. Imagine that, Chewy. That can't happen. Some compassion there from a gang, surely not.
The symbolism has also been propagated by far-right white supremacist groups across the world. It led to a public ban of Nazi symbolism in Australia.
And they're not intimidating at all, are they, Chewy? Those far-right Nazi groups around Christchurch and other parts of New Zealand.
This year, something the Prime Minister told 3 News he's open to following mongrel mob members chanting it at a tangi yesterday.
It's something we considered here because there was a lot of that going on within the session today.
Yeah, well, we're up for those conversations.
David Seymour disagrees.
Well, my view is I hate those symbols and salutes, but I quite like knowing who the idiots in society are. And if they're prepared to self-identify like that, I think that's actually helpful to everyone.
Okay. Do we really need to show them what comes next? The next question. Self-identifying more. You mean like if a gang member was wearing a patch, you fucking nonce? Like, honestly, the argument he just made, look, here's two things. The argument he just made for keeping people wearing Nazi symbols is the same argument that lots of people talk about for wearing gang patches. And let me say one more thing that I've just thought of, Chewy. In New Zealand, when white people use Nazi symbology and slogans, no problems as well. But when the brown people start to, I'll use that word again, co-opt it, all of a sudden Luxon's getting on his high horse going, well, the mongrel mob are doing it now, so maybe we should think about banning it. Why didn't he think about banning it when all those white people were using it in their far-right groups? It just seems a little bit coincidental to me. This has got about 15 seconds. I'll play it again, then I'll shut up and you can unleash.
He's also questioning the need.
What do you achieve? I mean, you talk about a tiny minority of incredibly stupid people. If they're prepared to self-identify...
That's been our
And
argument.
practicality.
I think you probably run into all sorts of Bill of Rights issues.
Bill of Rights issues the government had no problem legislating over for its ban on gang patches.
Exactly, Gina.
Thank you.
There you go, Chewy. I'm out,
Gina.
you're in.
What an absolute twat. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about why the mongrel mob used Nazi imagery and shout Sieg fucking Heil and all of that sort of stuff. When these gangs came around, the authority figures that they were butting into were people that had gone and fought the Nazis in Europe. And they were cast out of society to become outlaws. And the most offensive thing that they thought they could show to these authority figures is an utter disrespect of what they went and fought and died for. So that's why they co-opted the swastika and Sieg fucking Heil. You need to understand these things to try and combat them. Does Luxon understand that? Clearly no. Does Seymour understand that? I don't think so. For all of his talking about understanding history, the man clearly doesn't. And I love how his argument for not banning the swastika, for some reason, ran head fucking first into the asshole of the defense for getting rid of gang patches. Like, you couldn't hold a coherent position on that. Like, I'm personally of the view the only place in New Zealand for the swastika is in museums pointing out that the Nazis were bad. Let's not fucking do this again. The only realistic reason for owning a swastika for anyone is that it was captured from its previous owner in battle. I'd be fine if we ban the swastika, like some Australian states have done. Our society is not worse off. But will the mongrel mob give a shit? No, because famously, that's what outlaw gangs are about. Not giving a shit what you think. And you're quite right, Pat. Maybe they've banned one of our symbols. We'll just use a different one. The intimidation is not the symbol.
Mm.
It's the organization or the person wearing it. Like, if the mongrel mob decided tomorrow to adopt the symbol of Winnie the fucking Pooh and have that all over their gear and tattooed on their faces and still carry on doing the same shit that the mongrel mob does, guess what? Winnie the Pooh is now intimidating.
Yeah.
Like, these guys do not understand that. Ban the swastika because there is absolutely no positive effect for having the swastika in our society for any reason apart from being in a fucking museum or a history book. That's it.
Very good.
Why is Seymour defending the right for anyone to run a swastika up a flagpole? That seems to be his position. Is it a friend of his? A donor really likes doing it on weekends? Who the fuck knows? But he can't hold a consistent position. He wants to be. It's always this. He tries to be a libertarian, but he also tries to be a right-wing reactionary where the answer is to ban everything. And he can't stay in one lane.
Someone in the chat said that the word nonce means sex offender. I've never heard that reference before.
Me and my English wife were talking about this.
Hang on. This is important. So I withdraw that comment thrown at David Seymour. I've my whole life I've never heard it described with that word. Nonce is an idiot, like a dunce, a version of a dunce. So if that is the case, I withdraw that. But that seems to be English slang. It doesn't seem to be how we use New Zealand. But just for for not for just for shits and giggles, but for honesty. And
how close can I walk to this line, Pat?
Not close at all, especially because we're running late.
Okay.
You can say something if you want. I'm not going to stop you.
Well, I'm trying. David Seymour is not a nonce. He's nonce adjacent.
Okay.
All I'm going to say on that.
Frosty says, is this a Springbok tour situation where Aussie bans them and New Zealand doesn't? Also notice how it's national governments that get into these situations. Huey Bird says, David Seymour supports the Third Reich. Mr. Arvid says, wasn't there a bike shop that put up a swastika? Yeah, I think in Canterbury somewhere. Surprise, surprise. Rajan, isn't it ironic when people who call for mass deportation of migrants piss and moan about getting banned from other countries? That's a very good point. Well done, Rajan. I love it when people in the chat are smarter than us. Double standards. There you go. Just straight to the point. No messing around. Just double standards. All right, we're going to keep trucking because we've got lots to get to. And last night, if you were with us, you'll know that we had some significant technical difficulties. Might have just been a gremlin. I didn't see anything written up on the software that we use. I had a look around today. No one else. Just lucky us. And maybe it was because Winston Peters sent his minions out to get us, and they got us through the.
It wouldn't have been Winston. New Zealand First's IT department. They're the guys that are under 60, but they're definitely not younger than 40.
We are going to now go to the conversation, which is Mehdi Hasan and Destiny versus Sarah Palin and Piers Morgan. And this dude here is a supposedly centrist comedian. He might as well not be there. I realize there is a lot of things that some people don't like about Destiny. I think his views, for example, on Gaza and Israel, particularly unpopular amongst, shall we say, our crew. But there are other things that he nails from the left, and he knows his shit, and you'll see it in these conversations that are going on. I've got a bunch of clips I want to play because this was fun. Mehdi Hasan asking about all the Hitler rhetoric. We talked a bit about this yesterday. Let's have a listen to what Mehdi Hasan said to Piers Morgan yesterday about why all the Hitler rhetoric.
I mean, if I take Governor Palin's point about going to prove something wrong, the problem is we weren't proved wrong. That rally could have proved us wrong. Donald Trump could have run a rally, and the Republican body could have done a rally and said, what are you talking about? What a fake liberal accusation. Instead, they just served up line after line of hate, and that's the problem. Trump is who he says he is. MAGA is what we think it is. So when you tune into the rally, I wasn't there, thankfully, but when I tune in and see what was said, I mean, you just have to listen. You mentioned some of it. Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. Black people like to cut up watermelons, not pumpkins, on Halloween. Jews are stingy. Palestinians are terrorists. Effing illegals.
His argument, Mr. Hinchcliffe, is
one of those is true, but you have to guess which one.
That's their on-set comedian there. That was a joke.
Oh, Jesus.
Kamala Harris is surrounded by pimp handlers. She's the Antichrist and the devil, right? The neo-Nazi great replacement theory. Immigrants are being brought to replace us. And that's all before Trump even took the stage. That's just the warm-up act.
What's the point I was going to make? I was there. It was 6 hours. I would say that the offensive bits that you're talking about, some of them were clearly not intended the way they were, some were. But I would throw back at you.
No, you don't.
I reckon if you had 6 hours right now of Kamala Harris and her people talking about Trump, it wouldn't take them long before they're into he's the new Hitler.
Okay.
And on the scale of
this is something that Piers Morgan goes on and 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 on about. You'll find it very difficult to find someone with authority within the Democratic Republican a Democratic National Conference, like someone there who is someone who's running for president, someone who is, the leader of the House. These people with power who would be very hard pressed to find any of them who have ever called him Hitler. Some randos like us on the internet have probably said it, but the difference is you've got the leader of one of the political parties and his cult followers using words like communist and all the terms, and then you've got randos on the other side who are calling Trump Hitler. But Piers Morgan just goes on and on and on and on about how many people call him the new Hitler. And the point that Mehdi always makes, which we should remember, is the only person he can think of that called him the new Hitler is his running mate, J.D. Vance. This has got about 60 seconds, Joey.
This is desperate stuff even by your standards. I was at the DNC. I sat for 6 hours in a very uncomfortable seat. People did not make racist remarks. Hold on, let me finish. You interrupted my point.
I'm asking you a question.
Go on.
You've got a chance after this. We'll do one for you. But my point is, it wouldn't be long before the Hitler stuff comes out. And honestly, on a scale of offence, calling someone the new Hitler, isn't that actually worse than anything else?
First of all, I was at the DNC. I sat there 6 hours every night in a very uncomfortable seat. Nobody called Donald Trump Hitler from the stage. So your argument falls apart. Let's talk about what actually happened last night. The governor can do whataboutism. I don't know why you're doing the whataboutism. Let's talk about what happened last night.
Well, I can only call it as I see it.
Let me finish my point. Before Trump even got on stage, we had the Puerto Ricans, the Jews, the Palestinians, effing illegals, pimp handlers, antichrist. That was all there. Then Trump gets on stage and says immigrants are invading and occupying our country, which is the language of the far right. He talks about the press being the enemy of the people, which is straight from Goebbels. You've condemned that line. He talked about the enemy within, which is literally a Hitler line. So if you don't want to be accused of sounding like Nazis, there's a simple solution. Stop talking like Nazis.
Beautiful. I have such a bromance for Mehdi Hasan. Chewy, your thoughts? We've got 6 clips, by the way. So
so do I, mate. Look, I saw something float through the chat ages ago of like, just basically show me where Trump's a Nazi. It's his words and actions. Like I don't think it's National Socialism to the dictionary definition of 1930s, 1940s Germany, but it's MAGA. It's his words and actions fit that mold. They're almost direct quotes in some case from Mein Kampf and Hitler speeches.
So can I say this? If there was a political leader who just constantly used the N-word, made jokes about, Asians not being able to drive, black people eating fried chicken and watermelon like they were talking about, and then people went, "You're so racist," and he went, "Oh, I'm not a racist," you'd go, "Why are you saying all these racist things?" Because if you say all these racist things, doesn't that make you a racist? If you're saying all these fascist things, if you're saying all these authoritarian things, what does that make you? I mean, it seems so pearl clutchy that they won't play the parallel game where you kind of go, it's very clear in some areas. Why does your little world of not wanting to be called a fascist or fascism have like special rules, when if it was like racism or sexism or any otherism, it would be really clear cut? How come when it's fascism, all of a sudden there's different rules apply? I don't get it. All right, let's have a look at another clip, shall we? This one is trying to claim that Bill Clinton is the same as Trump. That happens here because Bill Clinton had a blowjob in the Oval Office, and Trump tried to steal an election result. But same.
Bill Clinton is disgraced in the Republican Party, and Donald Trump is the hero of the Republican Party. They're not even remotely similar to how the parties treat them.
Yeah, but Bill Clinton's a Democrat, and he still speaks at the DNC.
This is one I've not seen. We're doing Bill Clinton now?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I am.
All right, let's talk about Bill Clinton. Did he overturn an election? Did he send a mob to the Capitol to overturn an election?
I just told you what he did.
No, but I'm asking you what he did compared to Trump.
Well, he had sex with an intern in the Oval Office and then lied about it to the American people. Do you not think that's important?
Yes, I was against Bill Clinton. You picked the wrong guy. I was never a fan of Bill Clinton. Nice try. Try again. Let's talk about Trump. I tried to overturn an election. He's not been tried for it. Do you think it's right, Piers, as someone who objected to the insurrection, that he's going into election in 8 days? You asked Destiny, why is he still doing so well? Because he was never tried. You want to talk about the DOJ? I think the DOJ is an embarrassment. I wish they'd gone after him. They didn't go after him because he's going...
The thing that's great about Mehdi Hasan is he points out all the failings He's not a voice piece, a mouthpiece, for the left, the far left, for Harris. He's like, yeah, they're terrible. But now let's talk about the guy you're talking about. He's even terribler. And everyone's in his radar for a fair critique.
Into an election, having not seen the inside of a courtroom. For Georgia, for DC, we heard him commit a crime on tape, Piers. You heard him. You heard him say to Brad Raffensperger, find me the votes. If you had done that, I'd done that, we'd be in prison right now. We wouldn't be running for re-election. That is the reality. The American people never got to hear in court all of the charges against him. You saw the Jack Smith indictment.
Just so I'm clear on this here,
Yeah.
and forget how Trump's guilty of all these crimes, whatever. When you're asking why is he getting so much support, your honest theory is that if he had just been prosecuted more, then his people would have turned against him?
It's not monocausal. There's many reasons he's doing well.
Okay, but one of the causes.
Democrats have run a bad campaign. Gaza is a factor, etc., etc.
Sure. Lots of factors.
The media doesn't know how to cover this stuff. But yes, clearly...
You think it would have hurt him with his supporters had he
not
been
with his
tried
supporters,
for
but we know
insurrection, inciting an
with his
insurrection?
supporters. I've given up on his supporters. We're talking about the people who actually are persuadable. Yes. When was he most unpopular, Dave, in his entire life? On January 7th, 2021.
Boom. Most unpopular in his entire life, January the 7th, day after the insurrection. Any thoughts, Chewy? Other than we love Mehdi Hasan?
Mehdi Hasan is great. I think we don't know how to talk about this. The media doesn't know how to talk about this. Like, January 6th was one of the most unhinged things that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I think it is weird. Like, America has prided itself on the peaceful transfer of power, that they don't have the overturned elections and political opponents being persecuted, assassinated, locked up in jail if they lose, all of that sort of thing. There haven't been any coups. January 6th, that's like over 200 years of that stopped at that point. And now they're letting the guy that inspired it run again. Like, it's weird. They have too much trust that their political system is robust enough to handle something as disruptive as Trump and his supporters and the MAGA movement and the senators and Congress people that support him. Like a tick. Like one of those parasites that eats the tongue out of a fish. The MAGA movement has moved into the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Like there should be a split. They should just literally put your money on the barrel, Republicans, split away. Come up with something new, because the Republican Party has been eaten from within by first the Tea Party and then the MAGA movement.
Yeah, Tea Party started today, this last thing. We'll go to the next clip in a minute, but I'll give credit to Destiny here. I don't know if he says it in this, but I've seen him do a couple of debates in the last few weeks. They've been popping up in my algorithm. And he says very clearly that this, because one of the comebacks from the right as well, but it was a peaceful transfer of power. Did Trump leave? Yes. Did Biden? Yes, walk in. And the thing that Destiny always says in these debates is, what happened on January 6th? He goes, was the vote to ratify the election delayed? Was the transfer of power delayed? Yes. Why was it delayed? Because of the violence happening outside the building. So this was not a peaceful transfer of power. And I think it's a really insightful look and to look at it. Yeah.
Over 200 years of history. Stop.
All right, Sarah Palin. We get to hear from her. She's still around. It's not just like a cardboard cutout of her. Sarah Palin on why Donald Trump is so darn popular.
Trump supporters recognize that it is not Donald J. Trump, a person whom is to be supported. It's what he represents. The Trump train that has been so aggressively moving forward with great intention for this country.
We just got to also point out that since he won in 2016, he has lost everything. The midterm elections, both times that people were running on his name, lost. So she talked about this Trump train moving forward. But that he won the 2016, then either himself or his ideologies have lost every single time so far. Now, will he lose next week? looks like it's a coin flip, but this idea that there's this Trump train been going through America for so long is absolute garbage. He won once, and then he lost midterms, general election, midterms, and now we have another general election, and we'll see.
We recognize it's what is represented on that. It's all about freedom. It's all about not allowing our country to be fundamentally transformed, as Barack Obama had promised he and his ilk that they would do to America. He said that back in 2008. We recognizing we don't need a fundamental transformation of America. We need a restoration of all that's good about America.
There's your part, Joey. Going back. We're not going back. We need a restoration. We need to go back, make America great again, back on track, National Party. When was it so good? When are we going to? What exact date?
Fundamental transformation of America. We need a restoration of all that's good about America.
What is the freedom that Donald Trump represents?
And that is what Trump.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Is it the freedom to not have an abortion, to have a police officer looking over you when you go to get tested for pregnancy? Is it the freedom to have a president that lives above criminal prosecution? Is it the freedom to have tariffs related to every single product that we might import into the country? What is the freedom?
We'll take one freedom that he is quite adamant about because.
Destiny, love him or hate him, is actually very good with his facts and figures because he even wins this next point.
On there.
Well, you wait. This next point about that these hokey dokey Republicans, the Second Amendment, he even wins that point.
The majority of Americans are adamant about, and that's our Second Amendment rights.
I'm sorry, how much anti-gun legislation or executive action did Biden do, and then compare that to Trump? Biden did nothing. Trump banned bump stocks, so that's an auto loss for you. What's the next?
Well, let's talk about Kamala and her position.
Okay.
Are you saying Kamala or are you saying Kamala?
I say Kamala because I don't see any point in deliberately mispronouncing her name.
Like Trump does every single time he speaks.
That was actually really good by Piers Morgan. I don't see any reason in purposely mispronouncing her name like they all do. That was actually, you give baby his bottle once in a blue moon. Well done, Piers Morgan, for pointing that out. That when those people on the right do it, they're doing it on purpose and they're doing it for an effect. Well done, Piers Morgan.
Well, I don't want to
Hussein Obama. Like
Hussein,
and they called him the new Hitler. So all's fair in love and war.
Excuse me, but also, didn't Trump try to accuse Obama of not being born in the United States? Wasn't that his entrance into politics? Again, it's not just what he says, it's what he does. Just asking questions. And even when Arpaio came out with the birth certificate, they said, no apology for that.
Okay, so you asked about the freedom
when you're called a Nazi,
they called Obama a communist for 8 years.
Let me finish my point.
Oh my goodness.
But if this one point is all you have,
it's quite a big point because you're
comparing. It's not because Trump calls Harris a fascist.
Didn't Trump say immigrants were the poisonous to the blood of the nation or whatever?
If you're comparing Trump to the most evil person in modern...
The framing, you're comparing Trump. You're comparing Trump. Mehdi Hasan has never called him Hitler. I don't know if Destiny has or hasn't, but this is the thing. The framing that Piers Morgan always does is always pro-Trump. He says he's centrist. He says he goes after both parties. He's pretty good internationally, like his political commentary internationally, but on American politics, it's his framing. You're calling him. No, they're not. Some rando who got kicked off Twitter for saying something bad about an Auckland mayoralty campaign, he might be calling him Hitler, but, these people in positions typically aren't. Sorry, Joe, there's a bit of a low blow there, but
If you're comparing Trump to the most evil person in modern history, who murdered 12 million people, who perpetrated the Holocaust of 6 million.
Hitler. The only person I know who's called Trump Hitler is his running mate, J.D. Vance.
And his last general called him a fascist.
Oh yeah, his last general, by the way, his top general said he's a fascist.
These are the people that have worked the closest to him.
His chief of staff says he praised Hitler. Should we go down the list?
Well, he didn't praise Hitler.
Do you know more about Trump? I know you're friends with him.
He said he would like to have had the loyalty of Hitler's generals.
That's not true. He said that's not true, Piers. Let's be some facts. He said, quote,
he said that or not.
Hitler did some good things, is what he said.
He denies saying that.
Oh, Trump denies it.
The Charlottesville rally.
How do you know he did?
Piers, you trust Donald Trump over General John Kelly. Just say that to the world. I want to hear you say it.
Possibly on that,
Not possibly, do you? Yes
it's
or no?
been denied.
So
by other people who were in the room.
Lies
other
in
people
every breath.
Other people. I don't dispute that he has a problem with the truth, but I would say that other people who were in the room at the time say he never said it.
So let's just be clear. All of the top generals and military people who worked with him: Mark Milley, John Kelly, Jim Mattis, H.R. McMaster.
They're all fired,
Mark
right?
Esper. None of them were fired, actually. No, McMaster quit.
Do you know how we've said before how Piers Morgan is no longer a journalist? Do you hear what he just said? They were all fired, because he's guessing. And did you hear what Mehdi said? None of them were fired. Piers Morgan, so-called journalist Piers Morgan, just threw out there that all these journals were fired. And the response was, no, none of them were fired. Like, Just think about that for a person who's sitting up the front trying to frame this narrative again.
Yeah. That says so much about Piers.
Yeah.
Because that's Trump's thing, right? That's from The Apprentice. He's the guy that fires people.
Yeah.
You're fired. You know, nobody can quit. Nobody can walk out on him. They'll always be fired.
Well, let's hear this point that he makes. Got about 30 seconds to go on this clip.
They're all fired,
Mark
right?
Esper. None of them were fired, actually. No, McMaster quit. Mattis quit. Kelly quit. So you're wrong again, Piers. Piers, facts matter, Piers. I know you're pushing.
When you say quit, what do you mean? They quit?
literally walked away.
Or they were forced away?
No. Let me finish because you're getting this all wrong. I know you get your talking points from Fox these days. Well, you did. You just said something that Fox says. John Kelly walked away.
I sit in my Liberal chair when I do the fight.
John Kelly walked away and Trump praised him on the way out. Mattis walked away. Trump praised him on the way out. The only time Trump started criticising them is when they pointed out stuff that he had said to them. So all these generals are lying, and Donald Trump, a man who has problems with the truth, to use your phrase, is telling the truth. Come on, Piers, it's embarrassing.
Well, but how do you, listen, I kind of...
Yeah. How much do you love him? I mean, you know, he's a lovable chap. The next clip is 2 minutes, but
so
you got to have thoughts first of all, then we'll go into the next clip.
I love that they were talking about the generals. Like I'm a fan of a lot of military stuff, and General Jim Mattis, Mad Dog Mattis, is someone I have read up about and admire. I was shocked when I saw him take up a role in Trump's administration, but I was not surprised when he quit. Mattis is someone that he is literally a straight shooter. He is someone of enormous personal integrity and a very firm position, a worldview. And I knew he wouldn't last with Trump. I think he was the one that says I was the only adult in the room about his time in the Trump administration.
We've talked a little bit about, and I've talked a bit about the narrative about the Nazi style rally. Mehdi Hasan explains a little bit in this clip, it's only a couple of minutes, as to why it was a Nazi styled rally. So, you know, I've said that I don't think it's particularly smart messaging, but, you know, Mehdi Hasan gets a lot of things right. Let's see what he's got to say.
I'm saying that I listened to a rally at which people said things that Nazis said. Do you deny that Joseph Goebbels talked about enemy of the people, that enemy within is a Hitler line?
Anyone who uses the phrase enemy of the people is a Nazi?
Not anyone. When Trump consistently uses Trump language, Hitler language, when he says poisoning the blood of the immigrants, was that coincidence as well? Even after he was told that's only from Mein Kampf and he said it again. Was that a coincidence?
It was a Nazi rally to you.
Was that a coincidence?
Was it a Nazi rally?
No, it was a Nazi-style rally. People said absolutely neo-Nazi
things. So these people are capable of
you just want to
perpetrating
get
a
a
Holocaust.
gotcha line, and I want you to do with fact. Is a great replacement theory Nazi theory or not? No. Sorry, facts matter. You can't just say, I'm going to ask you about headline
You're
pictures.
missing my overall point, which is this.
It's not my fault that
my
you don't
point is that
understand what
you two
happened
are very exercised about the...
I'm exercised about the fact that you don't deal in facts, Piers. The great replacement
let me get
theory.
a word in.
No. Great replacement theory is a neo-Nazi theory. Until you address that, I can't continue this conversation.
Let me come to Sarah I want to move to a different thing, because you're not going to address the fact you think
you
they're
don't know
Nazis.
what the great
You think they're a bunch of Nazis, but don't really want to say
it. I watch both of your shows. I love watching you guys do this to each other, because watching you guys do it to other people is infuriating, and when you guys go to each other, it's very funny.
And I enjoy it too.
It is true, though. You don't deal in fact when you talk about Trump, though. I agree with him.
No, I do. I'm very...
What's the great replacement theory? Why did you tell your viewers?
Why did you tell your viewers?
I know the great replacement theory.
I want to suspend the Constitution.
I don't agree with the great replacement theory.
So why was it echoed by Tucker Carlson and Don Jr. yesterday at the rally?
I don't agree with it. What do you want me to say?
So you're he said replace. Yes, Don Jr. was speaking. He said replace the immigrants coming to replace us.
Right. Now, there's 2 clips left, Chewy. One of them is pretty long, but it's the part where actually Mehdi Hasan and Sarah Palin argue. So I think we've got to kind of play it. But you got any points on that one you want to get out there?
Just acknowledging that's a quite high-powered panel talking about the great replacement theory. Something like I've referred to this a couple of times. One of the things I used to do in the past was go after online Nazi groups. In that time, I spent a lot of time on literal fascist neo-Nazi message boards and stuff like that. And this is not lost in the mists of time. This is the mid to late 2000s. And at that point, the great replacement theory was only seen there. It was the idea that the non-white races would outbreed and replace pure white bloodlines. Just real fucking insane stuff. And now we have people supporting and even the candidate to run the most powerful economy, most powerful military country in the world is using that theory. Less than 30 years. From fringe message boards to US presidential elections.
Wow.
And I remember when we would bring that up with people that weren't familiar with those worlds, and people go, that's fucking crazy. Those guys are cooked. That's never going to go anywhere.
I'm going to play this clip. It's funny because this is probably the most inflammatory, is that one? Flammable clip we've got, but they're talking about energy independence. That's the subject matter of this clip, but this is the place where Mehdi actually turns to Palin, and Palin gets, some of his factual wrath.
Why I will not support Kamala is she doesn't understand, for one, that inherent link between energy development, energy independence in America, and that inherent link between that and our safety and our sovereignty. And because Kamala and because the Democrat Party has put an end to so much of our exploration, certainly so much of our development of our own natural resources.
Isn't America producing more energy today than we have in all of history?
No, we're not. And
that's not true? We're not?
No, we're not. And
okay.
Remember Kamala and her administration, day one, they stopped pipelines, no more drilling on federal lands.
When you're watching Animal Planet, and they show the picture of the lion freezing, and the antelopes in the distance, the antelope turns its head, and the lion goes hoo, 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 and freezes, and the antelope looks, away and keeps eating. The lion goes hoo, 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 hoo. It's Mehdi. It's exactly what Mehdi's doing. You watch him. He's pausing. He's freezing. He's waiting for the kill. And he's going to come
He's doing that thing that cats do.
Yep.
That they lock eyes and then they go.
Yeah.
That.
There we go.
We looked up. America's not producing energy. You ran with McCain. You said you care about veterans and everything. Did Trump's comments about McCain bother you at all? Did Trump prefers people that didn't get captured?
I've never said anything negative about McCain or any.
I didn't ask if you said it. I asked if Trump's comments bother you about that.
Anyway,
when Trump made fun of that Gold Star family,
anyway,
did that bother you?
The inherent link between
I wrote a column criticizing him heavily
she just said she cares about vets. I had two parents who served in the Air Force. I'm just curious, if you cared about vets, did these comments bother you?
When
Trump tried to go to Arlington and do a photo op there.
If I care about vets,
yeah, if you do, did these comments bother you?
If I care about vets.
If you cared about vets, I'm asking, did these comments bother you?
So the inherent link between energy and prosperity and energy security.
About whether or not Trump's...
She's trying to stay on the energy and prosperity link, but she's getting harangued
got no answer for it.
Can you please explain your bona fides about your support of the military or not?
You interrupted the point that I was going to make.
Because you're not making any points. These are political talking points. Are we running for office in here?
Really? Really?
You did run for office, by the way. You ran with John McCain, the most warmongering man that we know of. Why did you run with John McCain?
The point to make.
Why did you run with John McCain if you're anti-wars?
To make a positive difference in our country.
But he would have sent more people to die.
You don't know that.
I do. He literally said bomb, bomb, bomb Iran. He sang it.
Yeah.
I mean, he sang it. He did campaign.
He campaigned on a war platform.
He campaigned on 100 years in Iraq.
He campaigned on staying in Iraq 100 years and bombing Iran.
You're asking why I accepted the nomination to
I'm just wondering, you're sitting here saying you're against war abroad, and yet I just want to remind younger viewers at home, you ran with the most warmongering senator of my lifetime.
And you're asking why I ran for vice president of the United States of America?
No, I know why you ran. You wanted power. I'm just saying why you're not consistent.
I mean, to be fair to Palin, Vance accepted the nomination, and he said that Trump could be America's next Hitler. So I mean,
All right, why don't we try and be a little fairer to the ex-governor, because she's on her own here getting attacked by three brutal males.
And I wanted to talk about energy and America's.
Yeah, finish your point.
What you said was false about energy. Facts matter too. America has record energy production right now.
No.
It does. People can Google it right now and see
I said that on day one, what the Biden administration did was halt so much of our exploration
and yet we have record energy
and our construction of pipelines. And
I'm not a fan of that, by the way. I think we should have less energy production. I'm a critic of Biden on his energy production.
You're a liar. You lied.
I'm a liar.
Yes, and you said, no, Biden didn't do that. Yes, he did on day one.
Do you know he handed out more licenses than Trump? Do you know that?
I'm making the point that you denied. My point is true.
Destiny said energy's higher, and you said no. So if anyone lied, you did.
Listen.
People can DVR it, they can rewind it and see you saying a false statement.
Let me
to
ask this question.
So you don't
energy
think
production higher. Is energy production higher today?
You don't think that Biden
Is energy production higher under Biden than Trump?
And you just
Is
lied
energy production
and
higher,
said
Sarah Palin? It's a very simple
Biden
question.
didn't
I know
do it.
facts are not your strong point. Is energy production higher today under Biden than under Trump? It's a simple yes or no question.
You're an obnoxious.
See, but then the issue
Facts hurt, don't you? Facts don't care about your feelings.
Are Americans wrong when they have this feeling? Well, the feelings
I'm
oftentimes are
obnoxious
generated
because I asked
from
you if energy production is higher today than under Trump.
You're
That makes me
obnoxious because I'm asking you why you would say that
I mean, I'm
Biden didn't
obnoxious.
thwart.
You're a
he
racist.
didn't
We want to play
thwart-
that game? You said Obama is not born in America. He's not one of
did?
us.
I
He's
said that?
Yeah, you said Trump is doing a great job asking for his birth certificate.
I
You said
said
he's
that?
you said he's not one of us. You said he jives and schmucks. Should we go down the record? You're going to call me obnoxious? Why don't we talk about your racism?
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about your racism?
Why do you change the subject
You
instead
said
of
Black
just
Lives Matter
answering the
protesters are dogs.
question?
Should we go down? Should
I
we go down
said
the
they're
All right,
dogs.
all right,
You're
hang
a
on.
liar.
All right, let's-
Show me where I ever said that protesters
It's funny you didn't
are
deny the
dogs.
Obama. You say Obama's
Let
shocking
me-
judge.
You're
All right.
a liar.
Mehdi, if you get the governor on your show, which is, I would say, unlikely as things stand, if you do, you can continue the prosecution. Let me just segue to this, though, because it's
I
interesting.
called people dogs who were protesting in
believe you.
America.
I
You're a
believe you did.
liar.
Did you question Obama's birth?
Oh my goodness!
Did you say he's not one of us?
You know, based
Did you say he's
on
palling
that,
around with terrorists?
Based on that, we're talking about Bill Ayers at the time and how
So you stand by
Obama
that?
had kicked off.
You're standing
his,
by Obama's
his,
with terrorists?
entire. Oh my goodness! I can't believe
Did
you
you
even
say he's
have
not
a
one of
show.
us?
If you,
Did you say Obama's not one of us?
I still want to know this proof that you have of me calling protesters in America dogs.
I believe you refer to Black Lives Matter protesters that
I
way. If I'm
believe
wrong,
you
I'll
are
happily
wrong.
withdraw
All
that
right.
comment.
Just quietly, of course. Sarah Palin called Black Lives Protest. So, you know, we just
the
have
way
to-
that you slid that window in
yeah, you like that?
was
That's
lovely.
that's the BHN version of sliding into my DMs. Just there.
That's amazing. Like
It is.
I don't think I could either say that I thought that Sarah Palin was a smart cookie, but wow, she got wailed on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Hey,
was
look,
something else. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we'll play the last clip. The last clip's only 50 seconds, and it does show what I said, that Destiny is very good at taking his position and going, zap. So he basically wraps up the whole conversations in this 50 seconds. So we'll play that, and then we're done with Piers Morgan until maybe tomorrow night. I don't know.
Will you vote for Kamala Harris with great enthusiasm?
Absolutely, 100%. Trump
Really?
is one of the
You really
the
believe she's
most
the one?
appalling thing. Yeah, of course. I was promised communism after 8 years of a foreign Kenyan person being in office, Obama, and that didn't happen. I was promised communism, socialism, and all my guns were going to be gone. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and every time a Democrat was up for office, you need to come down to Ammo's R Us and buy guns. They're going to take them. It never happened under Biden. The United States economy is outperforming every other economy in the world right now under Biden's policies that ostensibly Harris will continue. She will most likely continue these policies. The idea that Trump, and also the hilarious thing of Kamala's running on nothing. Trump is running on tariffs, and deportation.
Okay, but let me ask you a different question.
Mass
But
deportation.
who do you think is going to win?
Mehdi, I have no idea.
There you go. There's a little wrap up for the end. So that's Piers Morgan versus and Sarah Palin versus Destiny and Mehdi Hasan. And I think the ouchie ointment might have been off stage to the left for Piers Morgan.
Okay. Every panel show should have that. When someone gets beaten that badly, a firefighter comes on and just sprays them down with a fire extinguisher. Just you go in the quiet corner now. You've been beaten. Hey, here's a question for you, Pat.
Yeah, man.
What's the largest oil producing country in the world?
I think it might be the US, mightn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Most people would say Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but I'm smart.
But look, Sarah Palin was kind of lurching haltingly, drunkenly towards a point that energy independence makes a country more secure. And I would personally 100% agree with that. Now, she's coming from someone that lives in Alaska, where the entire Alaskan economy is based around oil.
Yeah.
You know, they don't pay taxes up there because of oil production and that sort of thing. So that's her very regional take on energy independence, is Alaska must keep drilling for oil. Destiny was 100% correct that they've produced more energy than ever before from a variety of sources, including solar and wind, all of those, and oil, gas. The whole works because they just keep on adding new technologies to it. It's something that I say here in New Zealand we need to do more of, is look at more renewables to make us more energy independent. And it doesn't matter what happens in the rest of the world. Yeah. If the Middle East fucking catches fire tomorrow, we aren't screwed. I think it is an often overlooked thing. Sarah Palin got murdered there. I feel like I should call the police.
Now, some of you will know about the continuation of Mehdi Hasan's meteoric rising in the media today with a particular panel show he did for CNN. We're going to cover that tomorrow night. And it's not just about we love Mehdi, although we do, but tomorrow night we've got a guest coming on who has just lost her job in the New Zealand media. And tomorrow night I want to talk a bit about the current media landscape. And the conversation with Mehdi is going to slide into that, because there's some fascinating information that's been coming out about how places like CNN book their panelists. And I've experienced this a little bit because and I won't say who it is, you'll have to come back tomorrow night to find out. I've been sitting in a newsroom, News Talk ZB newsroom, and I've heard a journalist say, we need a crazy Conservatives response to this. And a name gets thrown out. So I've actually seen it happen, and we'll look at a bit more of that tomorrow night, along with hopefully, if she's still good, I won't say who it is, but a guest who will come and join, who sadly just lost her job in the media. And we'll want to talk a bit about the media landscape at the moment. So that's for tomorrow night. See you then. For the rest of tonight, though, we're going to visit the working group. So let's have a quick look at a couple of things. There's a couple of... This whole Richard Prebble will go into the Waitangi Tribunal. I think the more interesting point about this to do with these guys, obviously it's horrific altogether. A man who I believe when he was an MP wanted to abolish the Waitangi Tribunal has been appointed to the Waitangi Tribunal. But the more interesting point, I think, is Tama Potaka appointed him. Do you think Tama Potaka wanted to appoint him? That's the point of conversation here on the working group.
Isn't the Waitangi Tribunal already, though, a political institution? I mean, you've got Dr. Fox who's heading it up. She's got a pretty clear worldview, I think. And if you have a look at I thought it was only 20 people on the commission, but the Waitangi Tribunal has been moving into areas, I think, outside its remit under the 1975 Act. And
oh, Damien, if you think it, then it's got to be true, doesn't it?
People may disagree with me on that. But the Waitangi Tribunal does appear to be pushing a quite a clear narrative. It's ruled on issues of sovereignty. It's going further than, I think, what was envisaged when it was created in 1975 of resolving treaty settlement claims. So isn't there an argument that you can make?
Doing things like working out what the principles are and still have today, even though some people think that we don't.
That the Waitangi Tribunal has already moved into the area, has already become a political institution. And I would argue that as a result of that, it's losing some of its mana and its credibility.
You can argue that, Damien, but there are two issues with it. One is that the appointment of Prebble, whatever you might think of him, what he might bring to it, it is completely different to any of the other appointments that are on that body. There are no other, long-term political biffo guys who have been appointed onto that body. Prebble is the only person who fits that particular box. And in terms of your broader critique there, it's not quite right, because of course the tribunal does have the permissive ability.
Some of its mana and its credibility.
Goodness gracious me.
Whoopsie doodles.
Oh, it's been sitting there for so long. That's what it's gone and done, hasn't it? 29 something. So we'll go to about there and then we'll stitch together after the show.
This is the ACT Party saying we're going to...
So isn't
the tribunal does have the permissive ability to inquire into treaty issues, but it's not a determinative body. So it can make recommendations, it can come to views, but ultimately the government of the day will respond to those. How would you fix that? How would you limit it? You'd have to, by some way in statute, say you can't look at this kind of stuff. And I think that would be a dangerous path to go down. Look, the thing that's notable about this appointment is it's not, in name, it's Tama Potaka's appointment, but no one seriously thinks that Tama Potaka looked at the list of possible people and chose Richard Prebble. I know how this process works. It's the Appointment and Honours Committee. This is the ACT Party saying, we're going to have our guy on here and forcing Tama Potaka humiliatingly to put someone on there that I don't think Tama Potaka wanted to put on there.
Michael,
and I think that's a notable thing. And to have the ACT Party really leading policy and decision-making in the semi-constitutional area of Crown Māori affairs, I think is the 7 or 8% party that's part of the government is notable and is worrying.
Well, just staying on.
There you go. I think it's a really interesting point. How the hell did Richard Prebble get on there if it wasn't for the ACT Party twisting the arm of Tama Potaka? And you might find that Tama Potaka is one of these people who you have to wait for him to leave politics before you ask him with all sincerity, what did you think about that decision? Because, yeah, it feels it's an interesting yet scary perspective, Chewy.
Yeah. Like, if they wanted to put one of their own team on the Waitangi Tribunal, they could have put Chris Finlayson on there.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. Like, he's Team Blue.
Unless they sort of didn't approve of what Chris Finlayson got done while he was there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. But, like, if they were playing fair and they wanted to put one of their own guys on there, like, would anybody have a problem with him? One of the most successful treaty ministers that there's been.
Yeah.
And he's a national guy.
And he's all blue.
But he's been very, very critical of this government, of his own party's handling of Māori. And that's why he's not on there. So we get Richard fucking Prebble. Has anybody gone, Richard Prebble is definitely a learned scholar on the treaty? I don't know why Damien Grant still talks about the treaty. Like, he's put in no work to try and understand it. He's just hitting the same points and just getting murdered every time he does.
Yep.
It's not his wheelhouse.
Yep. All right, let's wrap up for the night. One more clip from the working group. They're talking about welfare to... this is actually, maybe we shouldn't do this clip, Chewy, because this could turn into a 6-hour-long conversation. Because it starts by talking about giving welfare to corporations around school lunches. But then, of course, we have to go into the conversation, thanks to the man you're looking at right now, about government shouldn't be providing lunches to children. Parents should be doing it. So let's wrap up with a lovely cheery bit of news for the week.
Well, because there was a $5.50 price difference, I think.
This is welfare to corporations.
We're buying what was $3 lunches, which was a saving of $5.50 for the taxpayer. Here's the thing, Martin, economies of scale. If you want to deliver large amounts of high-quality, low-price goods, you're going to need to have one large organisation to do it. That's how economies of scale work. So if Seymour says, I've got so much money and I need to deliver so much product, then I've got a large corporate and it can do it. And that's going to result in what he's got, which is a $3 meal. Now, I'm not going to defend the quality of the food because I haven't tasted it. But here's the other thing. It's not the government's job.
Just before we play this line, can you just watch how angry he gets? Like, this is real rage. When he says this, watch the face.
Because I haven't tasted it. But here's the other thing. It's not the government's job to feed your children. It's your job to feed your children. And all that Seymour is doing is adding a little bit of calories for those children. It's your job as a parent to feed your child in the morning, and it's your job as a parent to provide them lunch, and it's your job as a parent to feed them in the evening and the afternoon. And if you can't do that, if your ability to provide for your children, don't forget the government provides the schooling for free. The cost of educating your children costs you nothing.
you
and if you are
cock.
still unable at that point to provide food for your children who only exist as a consequence of your actions, if you can't do that, I'm not really interested in your whinging and moaning because the food that is being provided by the taxpayer at no cost is not up to the standard that you're not even prepared to provide for your own children. So these people are not providing food for their children, criticising David Seymour for the food that he is providing. Not interested. Bomber, I can see you're just burning. You've got some sick...
Yeah, and they don't go on that. He just makes a statement and then he leaves. And Chewy, I'll give you first crack, sir.
Damien Grant doesn't understand what a society is. He doesn't believe in it. He's a libertarian that somehow hopes for some sort of Mad Max universe where we're all still very profit-driven and somehow don't murder each other in the first 5 minutes. The reason that schools are provided free by the state is because it's generally been acknowledged that that's great for society, to have an educated populace. They're better workers. They're better producers. They're better taxpayers. They don't go around murdering people for meat. And I love this whole thing of like, yes, it's a parent's responsibility to feed their children. Yep, fantastic. But what if they can't?
Or won't? Can't or won't?
What if they can't or won't? Is that the child's problem?
Mm-hmm.
Should they then starve or die and be cast aside as not being a useful profit producing member of society? Because that seems to be the position that Damien Grant wants to get really fucking angry about. He doesn't like poor people, obviously. He thinks poor people shouldn't have children, which is getting really scarily close to eugenics, another famously popular policy of libertarians. He hates poor people, but he wants to make sure that cycle continues, that no one gets out of that poverty trap. You're too hungry and deprived to go to school and learn. You continue being a poorly educated person on a benefit for the rest of your life, having children early, repeating that cycle again and again and again. I can tell you, Damien Grant, because I know you listen to the show, I am a childless taxpayer. I am a worker. I have zero problems with my taxes going towards feeding children that are in school to learn. I don't care whether those children are poor. I don't care if they're middle class. I don't care if they're wealthy. I believe part of the school system should be free meals, because the evidence points to all students having better outcomes if they're fed. I have a big problem with corporate welfare, because that's exactly what David Seymour's lunch program is now. Corporate socialist funding going to an overseas multinational that doesn't pay their taxes and has many, many complaints about the quality of their food. He has saved money and taken that taxpayer money, given it to that overseas company, and taken it out of the regions and the producers around the country. The localism that we had around feeding school kids, the money was going to the regions. That's gone now. It's just gone to a big UK-based multinational that doesn't pay their taxes. That doesn't sound like, yes, it's cheaper. It doesn't sound like a good use of taxpayer money to me.
It just, for the first time today, because I listened to that today and yesterday, last night and today, and I just thought, after I heard him say that, what does Damien Grant think a government's job actually is? Because if you think that a government's job is not to feed children, then surely logic would dictate that it's not the government's job to feed anyone. So in an ideal world, it's not the government's job to provide a safety net, a welfare system. It's not the government's job to provide a pension. Because is it that different saying feed children? Because okay, it's government's job not to have any kind of safety net because, your family should be supporting you, 22-year-old, if you haven't got a job and you're on the job seeker. That should be the family's job, not the government's job. You know what I'm saying? It's and you said the word eugenics, and I hadn't thought about that until I listened to it now. And in my head, I was going, what's that fucking word? Gene? What is it about genes? And it did sound, I was thinking exactly the same thing for the first time, just as we heard that. And when you've got somebody who it seems has an ideology of, fuck all of you guys, if you're struggling, that's your fault. Then really, what can you say about them? Because even if you went down that path of eugenics, you shouldn't have children, man, I was married, moved to Dunedin, separated, and was destitute with children for probably a year to 18 months. So what happens to me? What happens to me? No income, mortgage to pay, kids to feed. What happens to me? I was in a situation where I was feeding and clothing my kids, and then I had a separation and I wasn't able to. Well, it's not the government's job to feed those kids, my kids, that I had no income for 18 months or so. That makes completely logical sense. So I should have just been, homeless, on the road, in the car. Am I allowed a car? Eating out of trash bins. Not the government's job to feed my kids. But what do you think beneficiaries do? They feed their kids on government money. The government is feeding those kids. I just, I don't know why today it kind of hit me differently, but it hit me differently today when I listened to him.
It's a completely alien worldview to me.
Yeah.
I think a government exists through the will of the people. So then one of the things that the government should do is look after the people.
Yeah.
Whether that is to the level of national defense from foreign threats, or whether it is making sure that there is a safety net. It's things like dealing with a pandemic and keeping as much of your population alive as possible. It's making sure that your society advances. It is not this all or nothing black and white world that Damien Grant has a weird semi hard on for, because it's all theoretical.
Semi?
It's
just semi?
Yeah, just a half chub.
Okay.
Just because, I don't know. I don't know if he's able to get enough oxygen to get to the full mast. No, never stop. These guys love to bang on about how communism has never worked in theory. So neither is libertarianism. Every time it's tried, it's failed. There's a town in North America that got overrun by bears because they tried to be libertarian. And if you have not heard that story, please look it out. It can be a bedtime story for you. It is amazing. Oh.
Hey guys, it's been a great show tonight. I know it's been a bit longer, but that was partly because we were trying to catch up from last night. Lots of fun though. Thank you so much. Some of the super chats that have come in. Carl says, Carl, where you been? Haven't seen Carl for a while there. It's a damning indictment on some of these chats are from the Mehdi Hasan conversation. It's a damning incitement of their politics, and if they have 6 hours and can't fill it with anything other than grievances and culture war garbage, it'll be about the Madison Square Garden thing. Mm-hmm. Poor Sarah Palin. She's struggling to keep up with the thought process of others in the room. Yeah, that's pretty true as well. Campbell, does Sarah Palin eat cats and dogs too? Yeah, possibly. They're eating the cats, eating the dogs. Anna's just sitting back watching the great show tonight. Thank you for your super chat. Thank you for your super chat, Kiwi Bird. Damien loses every debate he finds himself in. Gareth says, how is the potential Friday show looking, guys? Well, I think there might be one this Friday. We'll talk about it afterwards, Chewy, and there might be a couple of people who we talk to. I would say 60% chance that there'll be a Friday show this week. If not, I'd say there's
60% of the time it works every time.
90% chance by next week. I don't want to rush people. We'll see, but we'll have a little chat and we'll see what happens. Mr. Arvid says it's the government's job to make sure parents have enough to provide for their family. Yeah, so here's the other way. If you're okay with a benefit going to parents, for example, then just give them a bit more so they can supply the lunches themselves. What difference would it make? You see?
Yeah.
You know, There you go, done. Brian Turner, so then we don't pay taxes, Pat. I don't know if I can condone that. Mr. Overs, does Damien think we shouldn't pay for MPs' lunches? Yeah, that's another bloody true one, isn't it? And 2 times convicted fraudster took COVID-19 payment, says Worming. And he brags about going on holiday with it. I've heard him saying that on the Working Group podcast as well. That's us for tonight. Is there anything else you want to... No tangents allowed, but anything else you want to check in there?
Just a picture. Just a picture.
Yep, go. Not all Trump supporters are racist, but all of them decided that racism isn't a deal breaker. Very good. Very, very, very good. Like that a lot. Well, I don't like it. I think it's a very clever thing, though. Well done, you. Well done, you.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily either this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by both Chewy and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
All right, team, we'll be back tomorrow night. Hopefully we've got a guest coming to join us as well. We're going to talk a little bit about the media and how to kind of traverse the New Zealand media at the moment and media in general, and we'll have some more clips about... For those of you who know about the CNN Roundtable, you already know how disgusting it is. The rest of you will happily find out about it tomorrow night. So thanks for joining us tonight, and thanks for coming back after last night's kind of hiccup. Anything from you to wrap up, Chewy?
No, I have been banned from doing tangents at this time.
At this time? Of course, at this time. There's only 2 minutes to go. At this stage. All right, team.
Stand by for further instructions.
Love you to bits. We will speak to you tomorrow night. See you back here live from 9 a.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.